a certain amount per year. How can we actually double or triple that, not just from absolute terms, but all relative terms? That's really the start of MDPCC, where I would actually go and freelance to either groups or individuals, and I believe that from the performance background point of view, you have a whole bunch of decisions that you're making on a daily basis, and you really are supposedly be a disciplined person that is a cog of the collective. And unfortunately, I think we do get distracted all the time, because people obviously in this environment are much better working together than working in isolation. And we are talking about a personal or an individual gain, and you can only get that once the team actually achieves a certain checkpoint or reference point. So I can imagine from a corporate point of view that is always on the table when you're looking at employment. I mean, you get people that build their careers very differently now than they used to 30 years ago. But, you had that skill in the 80s and you found yourself in a decent company, you would be spending 5 to 7 years with in a corporation. These days that number has probably dropped on average, maybe because there is such volatility in the former employment and nothing is guaranteed. The skills aren't necessarily being shared equally, and there will be people that are in positions of responsibility and power who aren't going to be resigning or dissolving anytime soon, because those skills that they possess have much bigger implications, not just on themselves, but also their legacy. So you get this competition that's not very even at all. It's all very skewed, and I realized very quickly that I'm not surrounding myself with the right people in order to grow, and you have to attach yourself to people that are progressive. You will get certain people along the way that you learn quite a lot of lessons from, but also very disappointing when you think that their success has actually come from taking vulnerable networks or clientele and exploiting that. So you find that probably more of the time in a third world economy than a developed economy, where you would find that the recourse and the legalities are on a different scale. But that could happen with the population going up, and let's just say healthcare and education does move to another level, and you've got more professionals and people in the network. You could all have new consequences that bear from that. But my current position right now is, I'm not very happy with the projects that I have that I'm running simultaneously. One would advise that I'm, running and spreading myself a bit thin, but I just have absolutely no trust in the system. I feel that the next day someone might just wake up and decide to terminate a contract, and they were more than entitled to do so, but I've got absolutely no protection regarding my livelihood, because it just feels that people can actually harm one another's livelihood without any recourse. And very opinionated, but I think a lot of people would share that type of sentiment in the workplace. I mean, society once again sold us the dream that you need an education, you spend all those years accumulating a piece of paper. The way and the manner in which you do that is irrespective of the job that is evolving every 6 to 9 months, and being relevant is not always a very unfair competition out there, but it's also the playing field also changes every 6 to 9 months. So very tough to be young and very difficult to also evolve when you're middle-aged and you have to consider what are your new business constraints and what is your new network that you have to build. And is there even an audience out for someone who is someone that was raised in the 80s, probably has a skill that is not formalized, and what is it that I can really get out of him? What can you do for me? That's going to be what MDP is all about. Mind drives performance. If you can lift someone from adversity, or maybe help them see things a certain way, efficiency or productivity wise, then you have some synergy in the network, which would then be, for example, more people would actually succeed. More people would obviously reach targets that they've never actually set for themselves. Once that happens, sure, they might want to keep it to themselves. They don't expect everyone sharing all their successes and achievements with everyone, but that's where we're at these days. People want to share all sorts of things online. They want to show strangers that they have amassed material things, and they're probably more inclined to share more of themselves to strangers because the communication has changed very much in the last 30 years. But this is episode 1, and I think this was all really just a premise to the book and how it's going to go. I feel that there needs to be chapters with each instance and a value add that comes out of it. There's something observational with the thoughts. You can't always go back in time and change anything. That's not the point. I have no regrets. But there were certain signs on the wall that needs to be addressed. And if I'm doing something now that's going to help a 20-something or someone in their teens, and they hear the message and the value that is embedded within the message, then I have done my job. I feel that I have achieved my purpose. My purpose on this world has always been to help and to understand the world. I feel very contradicted in my place, where I want to be that Jerry Maguire who writes that manifesto and puts everything on the line. But I know people don't even have the time to listen to someone else's problems, and then I've got to build up my reserves of energy, which can be depleted very quickly when people identify that I'm a sponge and I can take on their problems. But I think I'm working on that, and I think there's a lot of other people that could understand what I'm talking about. Really need to get my voice into a different pitch and a tone so that you can hear what I have to say, and say it with movement, and movement is medicine.